Okay. Sex in spirits. Question. Have spirits sex? Answer. Not as you understand sex, for sex in that sense depends on the corporal organization. Love and sympathy exist among them, but founded on similarity of sentiments. Can a spirit who has animated the body of a man animate the body of a woman in a new existence, and vice versa? Answer. Yes, the same spirits animate men and women. Question. Does a spirit, when existing in the spirit world, prefer to be incarnated as a man or as a woman? Answer. That is a point in regard to which a spirit is indifferent, and which is always decided in view of the trials which he has to undergo in his new corporal life. Author's words. Spirits incarnate themselves as men or as women because they are of no sex, and as it is necessary for them to develop themselves in every direction, both sexes, as well as every variety of social position, furnish them with special trials and duties, and with the opportunity of acquiring experience. A spirit who has always incarnated itself as a man would be only known by men, and vice versa. Relationship and filiation. Do parents transmit to their children a part of their soul, or do they only give them the animal life to which another soul afterwards adds the moral life? Answer. The animal life only is given by the parents, for the soul is indivisible. A stupid father may have clever children, and vice versa. Question. As we have had many existences, do our relationships extend beyond our present existence? Answer. It cannot be otherwise. The succession of their corporal existences establishes among spirits a variety of relationships, which date back from their former existences, and these relationships are often the cause of the sympathies or antipathies which you sometimes feel towards persons whom you seem to meet for the first time. Question. The doctrine of reincarnation appears to some minds to destroy family ties by carrying them back to periods anterior to our present existence. Answer. It extends those ties, but it does not destroy them. On the contrary, the conviction that the relationship of the present life are based The conviction that the relationships of the present life are based upon anterior affections renders the ties between members of the same family less precarious. It makes the duties of paternity even more imperative, because in your neighbor or in your servant may be incarnated some spirit who has formerly been united to you by the closest ties of consanguinity or of affection. It nevertheless diminishes the importance which many people attach to their ancestry, since we may have had for our father a spirit who has belonged to a different race or who has lived in a different social position. Oh, that was a question. That is true, but that importance is usually founded on pride. For what most people honor in their ancestors is title, rank, and fortune. Many a one who would blush to have an honest shoemaker for his grandfather boasts of his descent from some debauchee of noble birth. But no matter what men may say or do, they will not prevent things from going on according to the divine ordering, for God has not regulated the laws of nature to meet the demands of human vanity. Question. If there be no filiation among the spirits successively incarnated as the descendants of the same family, does it follow that it is observed to honor the memory of one's ancestors? Answer. Assuredly not, for one ought to rejoice in belonging to a family in which elevated spirits have been incarnated. Although spirits do not proceed from one another, their affection for those who are related to them by family ties is none the less real, for they are often led to incarnate themselves in such and such a family by pre-existing causes of sympathy and by the influence of attractions due to relationships contracted in anterior lives. But you may be very sure that the spirits of your ancestors are in no way gratified by the honors you pay to their memory from a sentiment of pride. Their merits, however great they may have been, can only add to your deserts by stimulating your efforts to follow the good examples they may have given you. And it is only through this emulation of their good qualities that your remembrance can become for them not only agreeable, but useful also. Physical and moral likenesses. Parents often transmit physical resemblance to their children. Do they also transmit to them moral resemblance? Answer: no, because they have different souls or spirits. The body proceeds from the body, but the spirit does not proceed from any other spirit. Between the descendants of the same race there is no other relationship than that of consanguinity. Question: what is the cause of the moral resemblance that sometimes exists between parents and children? Answer: the attractive influence of moral sympathy, which brings together spirits who are animated by similar sentiments and tendencies. Question: are the spirits of the parents without influence upon the spirit of their child after its birth? Answer: they exercise, on the contrary, a very great influence upon it. As we have already told you, spirits are made to conduce to one another's progress. To the spirits of the parents is confided the mission of developing those of their children by the training they give to them. It is a task which is appointed to them and which they cannot without guilt fail to fulfill. Question: how is it that good and virtuous parents often give birth to children of perverse and evil nature? In other words, how is it that the good qualities of the parents do not always attract to them, through sympathy, a good spirit to animate their child? Answer: a wicked spirit may ask to be allowed to have virtuous parents in the hope that their counsels may help him to amend his ways, and God often confides such a one to the care of virtuous persons, in order that he may be benefited by their affection and care. Question: can parents, by their intentions and their prayers, attract a good spirit into the body of their child instead of an inferior spirit? Answer: no, but they can improve the spirit of the child whom they have brought into the world, and is confided to them for that purpose. It is their duty to do this, but bad children are often sent as a trial for the improvement of the parents also. Question: what is the cause of the similarity of character so often existing among brothers, especially between twins? Answer: the sympathy of two spirits who are attracted by the similarity of their sentiments and who are happy to be together. Question: in children whose bodies are joined together and who have some of their organs in common, are there two spirits, that is to say, two souls? Answer: yes, but their resemblance to one another often makes them seem to you as though there were but one. Question: since spirits incarnate themselves in twins from sympathy, whence come the aversion that is sometimes felt by twins for one another? Answer: it is not a rule that only sympathetic spirits are incarnated as twins. Bad spirits may have been brought into this relation by their desire to struggle against each other on the stage of corporal life. Question: in what way should we interpret the stories of children fighting in their mother's womb? Answer: as a figurative representation of their hatred to one another, which, to indicate its inveteracy, is made to date from before their birth. You rarely make sufficient allowance for the figurative and poetic element in certain statements. Question. What is the cause of the distinctive character which we observe in each people? Answer. Spirits constitute different families, formed by the similarity of their tendencies, which are more or less purified according to their elevation. Each people is a great family formed by the assembling together of sympathetic spirits. The tendency of the members of these families to unite together is the source of the resemblance, which constitutes the distinctive character of each people. Do you suppose that good and benevolent spirits would seek to incarnate themselves among a rude and brutal people? No. Spirits sympathize with masses of men as they sympathize with individuals. They go to the region of the earth with which they are most in harmony. Question. Does a spirit in his new existence retain any traces of the moral character of his former existence? Answer. Yes, he may do so, but as he improves, he changes. His social position also may be greatly changed in his successive lives. If, having been a master in one existence, he becomes a slave in another, his taste will be altogether different, and it would be difficult for you to recognize him. A spirit being the same in his various incarnations, there may be certain analogies between the manifestations of character in his successive lives, but these manifestations will nevertheless be modified by the change of conditions and habits incident to each of his new corporal existences, until through the ameliorations thus gradually effected, his character has been completely changed, he who was proud and cruel becoming humble and humane through repentance and effort. Question. Does a man in his different incarnations retain any traces of the physical character of his preceding existences? Answer. The body is destroyed, and the new one has no connection with the old one. Nevertheless, the spirit is reflected in the body, and though the body is only matter, yet being modeled on the capacities of the spirit, the latter impresses upon it a certain character that is more particularly visible in the face, and especially in the eyes, which have been truly declared to be the mirror of the soul, that is to say, that the face reflects the soul more especially than does the rest of the body. And this is so true that a very ugly face may please when it forms part of the envelope of a good, wise, and humane spirit, while on the other hand, very handsome faces may cause you no pleasurable emotion, or may even entice a movement of repulsion. It might seem at first sight that only well-made bodies could be the envelopes of good spirits, and yet you see every day virtuous and superior men with deformed bodies, without there being any very marked resemblance between them. The similarity of taste and tendencies may, therefore, give what is commonly called a family likeness to the corporal bodies successively assumed by the same spirit. And this part is from the author. The body with which the soul is clothed in a new incarnation, not having any necessary connection with the one which it had quitted, since it may belong to quite another race, it would be absurd to infer a succession of existences from a resemblance which may be only fortuitous, but nevertheless, the qualities of the spirit often modify the organ which serve for their manifestations, and impress upon the countenance and even on the general manner a distinctive stamp. It is thus that an expression of nobility and dignity may be found under the humblest exterior, while the fine clothes of the grandee are often unable to hide the baseness and ignominy of their wearer. Some persons who have risen from the lowest position adopt without effort the habits and manners of the higher ranks, and seem to have returned to their native element, while others, notwithstanding their advantages of birth and education always seem to be out of their proper place in refined society. How can these facts be explained unless as a reflex of what the spirit has been in his former existences? Next question. Does a spirit retain, when incarnated, any trace of the perceptions he has had and the knowledge he has acquired in its former existence? Answer. There remains with him a vague remembrance, which gives him what you call innate ideas. Question. Then the theory of innate ideas is not a chimera? Answer. No. The knowledge acquired in each existence is not lost. A spirit, when freed from matter, always remembers what he has learned. He may, during incarnation, forget partially and for a time, but the latent intuition, which he preserves of all that he has once known, aids him in advancing. Were it not for this intuition of past acquisitions, he would always have to begin his education over again. A spirit at each new existence takes his departure from the point at which he had arrived at the close of his preceding existence. Question. If that be the case, there must be a very close connection between two successive existences. Answer. That connection is not always so close as you might suppose it to be, for the conditions of the two existences are often very different, and in the interval between them, the spirit may have made considerable progress. Question. What is the origin of the extraordinary faculties of these individuals who, without any preparatory study, appear to possess intuitively certain branches of knowledge, such as language, arithmetic, etc.? Answer. The vague remembrance of their past, the result of progress previously made by the soul, but of which it has no present consciousness. From what else could those intuitions be derived? The body changes, but the spirit does not change, although he changes his garment. Question. In changing our body, can we lose certain intellectual faculties, as for instance the taste for an art? Answer. Yes, if you have sullied that faculty or made a bad use of it. Moreover, an intellectual faculty may be made to slumber during an entire existence because the spirit wishes to exercise another faculty having no connection with the one which, in that case, remains latent, but will come again into play in a later existence. Question. Is it to a retrospective remembrance that are due the instinctive sentiment of the existence of God and the presentiment of a future life which appear to be natural to man, even in the savage state? Answer. Yes, to a remembrance which man has preserved of what he knew as a spirit before he was incarnated, but pride often stifles this sentiment. Question. Is it to this same remembrance that are due certain beliefs analogous to Spiritist doctrine which are found among every people? Answer. That doctrine is as old as the world and is therefore to be found everywhere, a ubiquity which proves it to be true. The incarnate spirit, preserving the intuition of his state as a spirit, possesses an instinctive consciousness of the invisible world, but this intuition is often perverted by prejudices and debased by the admixture of superstitions resulting from ignorance. Okay, I will end here, and the next will be plurality of existences.